Welcome to the Cult Classic Horror Show. Every week, you can have the conversations you've always wanted to have about the films you love.
Shut up!
We're gonna get you. Not another peep.
Get rid of your distractions and prepare yourself.
Then lock your door. 5, 6, gonna crucifix.
You got a big surprise coming to you. You're not going anywhere.
All right, welcome everybody to the Cult Classic Horror Show. Danny Bonin here with you.
Welcome, guys. Scotty Bonin back with you as well.
We are the Blood Brothers.
In unison.
We got it that time.
Beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing, baby.
We know this guy talks like that.
Inside joke.
Says that a lot. Yeah, anyways.
Got that low voice, baby. Yeah, baby.
So yeah, here we are, episode 28.
Wow.
Already 28.
28th. Man, we are flying here.
And we're still talking about George Romero, so we're now on to Day of the Dead.
Ooh, yes. Day of the Dead, actually, of the trilogy, of the original of the trilogy, this is part of the trilogy of his original films.
Yeah.
This
Night of the Living Dead,
Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead. Yes. This, Night of the Living Dead is still my favorite.
Yeah.
But this was close with Dawn of the Dead for being just gruesome and
it's by far the most gruesome. It's
out of the three.
Tom Savini, really came into his element here. I think my opinion is that obviously he's done great work before this, but geez, the difference between
oh my god
the effects in Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead are just to me sort of night and day.
Oh, they are night and day. Well, it is dawn, day, night and day, dawn and day. That was pretty good. Wow.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's tough to top. Obviously, Night of the Living Dead wasn't very graphic. It wasn't very, I don't know, maybe, I guess it was as exciting. It's just such a classic.
It's a classic. And
it's tough to top.
And it was, this movie was made, Day of the Dead was made in 1985.
Yeah.
And Night of the Living Dead was 68. So it was almost a 20-year difference.
Yeah.
I guess if you want to be exact, it was like 17 years, but
yeah, and you don't really think about that because in my mind, Day of the Dead is still like, until you mention that, it's still early on in George Romero's career because he has all these movies after that, but really almost 20 years in here.
Yeah, 17 years, yeah. And when I see him, he still is a young guy when we see him doing Day of the Dead because he wrote and directed Day of the Dead. Uh-huh. But now you see interviews with him now. He's got those thick the Harry Carey glasses with the white hair. And
yeah, he almost looks like a totally different person.
He does.
These old man interviews within the last 10 years or so or 5 years, he just looks like a totally different person than when you watch behind the scenes footage of even 1985.
Yeah.
So,
totally.
Yeah.
She looks like Harry Carey. Yeah. The Chicago Cubs announcer.
If the moon was cheese, would you eat it?
Will Ferrell does the best impression of Harry Carey. But yeah, he does. He's got those thick phosphorescent glasses. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was. Oh, I love the brutality and the gruesomeness.
There was some very gruesome stuff going on in this movie.
They did not shy away from the camera from this movie.
No, and 1985. This even compares to some of the stuff nowadays that we see in film. So
yeah, I bet you some of the filmmakers, like we were talking about Friday the 13th, where they had to cut so much, and even Freddy, they had to cut so much out of it because it didn't pass the production company.
And obviously this time, George Romero just didn't give a shit.
He didn't give a shit,
and they just released everything unrated. Dawn of the Dead was released unrated. This was released unrated.
Yeah.
Where, in the past episodes we were talking about, Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th series, and that's all that they were worried about most of the time, was trying to get that R rating so that they could released in theaters as an R rating and people would come see it. They just thought it would impact a huge amount. And it probably did.
Yeah.
But it's just crazy to see both ends of that. You have the Nightmare on Elm Street and the Friday the 13th series where they're really trying to worry about that. And then you have Romero over here doesn't even give a shit.
He's like, I don't give. Oh, I wrote it. This is how I wrote. This is how I wrote it, and we're not cutting anything out of it. So tough.
And it does show because Dawn of the Dead and Day of the Dead didn't really have successful openings.
Yeah.
Nowhere even close to the Nightmare on Elm Street series
and
or
Friday the 13th.
Friday the 13th. Yeah. So, I mean, that does explain a lot. Even Evil Dead was fighting in Evil Dead 2 for that R rating, So.
Yeah, and people said the Day of the Dead, if it would have got a rating, it would have definitely been an X rating.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And I could definitely see how it was. But that's what, people say, oh, there's too much cussing in it. There's too much blood and guts. But this is what the stuff that is in Day of the Dead, that's what horror fans want. Is they want that blood. They want the shovel graveled into the face and
that was so awesome.
Chip the face away from, blood everywhere. I mean, it was brutal, man.
You could really tell Tom Savini was having just a field day, just a blast with this movie.
He was.
I mean, towards the end there, when all the zombie killing was going on, I mean, God, it was just appliance effect after effect, practical effect after practical effect, over and over and over again. All this stuff that was set up.
Yeah,
and this obviously had a considerably higher budget than I think anything George Romero had done before, and they even cut it down. We're already into it here, but they had an original budget of $7 million.
Yeah,
and so a couple of the cast members, Tom Savini actually said the original script was basically Raiders of the Lost Ark with zombies.
Yeah,
that's packed with effects and all this high budget type stuff, and it just kept getting cut down. The budget kept getting cut, and they were worried about ratings and things like that. And it started at $7 million. Went all the way down to $3.5 million is what the budget ended up being, which it seems like they still got a lot done for $3.5 million.
Oh God, I mean,
all those effects.
Comparing to Dawn of the Dead, there was 3 times as much effects.
Oh yeah,
I mean, he had to be him and Greg Nicotero.
Yeah,
they had to be on it, after any zombie shot, there was blood and stuff. It was just
and we talked about this last episode for Creepshow 2, is that actually Nicotero. It was Romero that was so impressed with Nicotero's ability on Day of the Dead that caused him to call him back for Creepshow 2.
Oh, that's right, because Day of the Dead was before Creepshow 2.
Yeah, we did him a little out of order.
That's right.
We
That's right. Now I'm recalling.
But yeah, he said, if you look in the credits, Greg Nicotero is assistant to Mr. Savini, and Romero said he was so impressed how Nicotero came in and was so organized, and it was sort of up to him to keep track of all the props and appliances, and also to head up scheduling, I think, as far as making up zombies and getting everyone in and out quickly. Mm-hmm. And Savini and George Romero were very impressed with the job Greg Nicotero did. So
he was Savini's right-hand man. He was there when he needed everything. Yeah. And so on hands with everyone. Did the other guy that did Creepshow 2, the effects, what's his name again?
Yeah, Howard Bergman.
Was he involved in Day of the Dead?
I don't think, no, not Day of the Dead.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
And speaking of these effects, they started 4 months ahead of time building all the effects for Day of the Dead at Tom Savini's house. Mm-hmm. So Tom Savini's the kind of guy, in his basement. So Tom Savini's the kind of guy that likes to have, when he's shooting a film, he likes to have all the effects, everything done and ready before they go on set.
Yeah. So
they're not scrambling trying to deal with the set and at the same time deal with getting these appliances to work right and everything.
He doesn't play around. He's like, if we're planning, if this is written in the script and this is what needs to happen, all this needs to be made before it doesn't get thrown together that day and we're doing it. It has to be pre-made.
So they did. They spent 4 months ahead of time at his house. Nicotero, I think they had a team of 6 or 8 guys over there working, and they were clay mold or
foam
molding,
latex.
foam latex, all that kind of stuff down in his basement. And showed up, and it was just pedal to the metal. And even George Romero said in an interview that Savini is just the most high energy, positive, like, what can I do? Let's get it done. Let's get this done. You want to try that? Let's do this. Let's do that. Kind of guy on set. You know, he's sort of the go-to.
And he has so much on his table. And George was saying he never got frustrated. He was so up for it and just ready to go. Yeah. Which you were talking about Night of the Living Dead, how it didn't have as much effects.
Yeah.
What a step from Night of the Living Dead, where we get the clay fingers that were chopped, and then in Dawn of the Dead, I mean, you saw that the heads were they looked a little fake and stuff. But in Day of the Dead, really, I didn't notice the latex. I mean, it all looked pretty real.
No, it was great.
It looked real.
Yeah, Dawn of the Dead, we talked about the Smurf people.
Yeah, the Smurf people and the blue face.
How pretty much if you're a zombie, you're just blue, I guess.
Yeah, they just paint your face blue. Which Day of the Dead had some blue faces,
they kept that theme, but then they added all this gore and all
elaborate.
These appliances to their faces and everything. So
molds and stuff.
Yeah, it was great.
So it was definitely a step up from Dawn of the Dead 2, just of the special effects,
Yeah.
which made the movie for me. I mean, it was just
it was brutal. And talking about these effects and the amount of zombies, we talked about in Dawn of the Dead how they'd have a couple hundred zombies sometimes to make up. And so they're rushing them in and out, but obviously they weren't doing a whole lot. Just some blood, some blue, some, but this time around in Day of the Dead, Savini talks about how at most they might have 375 zombies there getting made up, and they would take about 20 minutes per zombie. And Savini was saying how they literally have a tray. There'd be a line of people waiting to be zombified.
And by the way, these zombies were like big time fans, like super fans that were like so excited to be zombies. So they were all like fans of the actual movie and the Dead trilogy.
Yeah, apparently the zombie extras each got paid $1 and received a hat that said, I have it written down,
free hat.
I was a zombie in Day of the Dead. It
That's
said on
awesome.
the hat. So it was sort of just like a for fun thing.
I do it for free. Shit.
Yeah. I mean, they basically did $1 and a hat.
$1 and a hat, yeah.
So anyways, they're lined up. A few hundred people getting ready to be zombified, lined up. And here's probably Tom and his team checking them in. And he literally said it was basically they would come up to the table, they'd sort of look at, gauge his size and be like, okay, here's some teeth that will probably fit you.
Yep.
He has a tray full of appliances and effects right next to him. And you go,
teeth here, eyebrows here, there, whatever.
Blood, a wound here, a torn, eyeball here, and you just
torn neck there.
Let's try this. This will fit. These teeth look like they fit. Here's that. Blah blah. Okay, done. Next, and then you'd be like, okay, here these look like they fit, and
zip through them.
Yeah, he said they would, 20 minutes per person. They'd get them all made up, and they'd be ready to go. So, what an experience!
And I actually noticed this. I mean, not only was the special effects and the makeup done really good in this, but we didn't talk about this, but the rags and the costumes they were wearing, everything was ripped up and ragged. I even saw like guys wearing like dresses with bloody dresses and aprons.
Yeah,
it was just
get creative.
It was the costumes were great too. So it was all in all, just the special effects were amazing, and with the costume and everything too.
Well, and they talked about, we mentioned this about Army of Darkness and in Dawn of the Dead 2. How zombies in the background are just wearing zombie masks, and then you come a little more forward, and they have, they get better as they get nearer the camera.
Molds. And,
so then the ones close to the camera are totally done up and everything like that. So they got away with some things like that.
And they said they had something like 200 masks on hand, just for the people in the background to flip, to use, which is crazy. Yeah. And we did, speaking of Evil Dead, the guy did look like Ash.
Oh, there's definitely evil Ash.
It's the first male that they catch with the little leash thing.
Oh, yeah.
They trap him in the little
it's like
gate.
It's like a cattle.
It's like a cattle run
thing or something. I don't know what the fuck you call it,
but they trap the girl and then they trap the guy next, and he's the one that looks like Deadeye Ash.
Oh, it's Evil Ash for sure.
Evil Ash.
Evil Ash. He's
curly hair and
and
everything. It's a
shame.
Even has like the blue shirt on. I thought.
I don't know if he had. I don't remember that, but he looked exactly like Evil Ash.
Yeah. It was pretty. It was crazy, and they're saying this was the darker of the three films too.
Oh,
Even darker
definitely.
than Night of the Living Dead, which I thought was pretty dark too. Obviously, Dawn of the Dead, you're having running around the mall and weird music playing. But,
Yeah, that was.
But yeah, it was
funky.
darker. I mean, that's some of the reviews they got as it being the darker one. And
But yeah, they did. So this, I kept saying 1985, but I think it was released 1987. We'd already said, directed by Michael Gornick, I'm looking at Creepshow 2. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes here.
Yeah.
So it was released in 85.
85, the year that we were born.
The Michael Gornick connection is that Michael Gornick directed Creepshow 2, but was the director of photography on Day of the Dead,
Yes.
on this film.
So he was still a part of it.
Also, what's the guy's name that played Martin?
John Amplis.
John Amplis, yeah.
John
who
Amplis.
played Martin, was in this film as well as sort of the assistant scientist.
Assistant scientist, yeah.
But he was also the director of photography as well for this film, which would be a lot to do, I would think.
Yeah, and he was a part of Creepshow, wasn't he? Creepshow 2?
He was a casting director
Yeah,
for
I
Creepshow
think-
2. Yeah, casting director.
And he was a casting director in Dawn of the Dead as well, I think.
Or maybe I'm getting them
Maybe
all
it was Dawn
mixed
of
up
the Dead
now.
because he had to get a bunch of zombies for Dawn of the Dead.
Casting director for Dawn of the Dead. Yeah, it was Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Yep.
But like we mentioned, John Amplis was in this as the scientist, and a lot of George Romero's casting and crew and stuff are people who have all worked together before. So you do tend to see that. Like John Amplis has been in
they
many
like
of
to
his
stay
films,
together.
and they like to stay together. They're almost like a family, like per se, So
Yeah, we watched some footage of them having a reunion.
a 30-year reunion.
Yeah, and
2014, I think 2015.
they were all very much, there was high camaraderie there, except for that. What the hell's the guy you just mentioned? The guy that played Joe.
Oh, well, that's the guy that played Rhodes.
Oh, his name's Joe, right?
Yeah. So his name, Joe Pilato,
God,
which plays the bad guy.
He looked haggard as fuck.
Yeah, he did.
He was
he's like all handsome in the movie, and
I
like
know,
this dick,
He's
like
a good looking guy.
yeah, Joe Pilato, man.
And now you look at him at this 30-year reunion. I think it was in like 2013 or something.
2015.
2015 is
Yeah.
So just last year,
Yeah,
he looks like hell. He's got long hair. He looks like a biker dude.
he does.
He looks like the kind of like biker dude he's got like long blonde hair. He probably would wear like a multicolored wolf T-shirt.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Yep.
And he would probably
Howling Wolf teacher,
like many
t-shirt.
rings on.
Yeah, necklace, bracelets, and stuff.
Yeah.
He kind of looks like what's the guy in Sin City?
Mickey Rourke?
Mickey Rourke. He kind of reminded me of Mickey Rourke.
But he's like Mickey Rourke's sort of stocky, but
Yeah.
he's sort of just chubby now.
Yeah.
Joe Plato is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He definitely put some pounds on it, but he was in that interview. He was still great. I mean, he was down
Yeah,
to
he was
earth.
great, but yeah, definitely a totally different person.
Just went off the deep end. Yeah.
Wolf T-shirt wearing,
Yeah.
Southwestern. His house is probably decorated with Southwestern stuff.
He probably has one of those cowboy hats that he wears like every day. That's really like oily and greasy. That's like shaped and formed to his head.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it was funny seeing, and even John Amplis in that interview, he looks so much older too.
Oh
when we're
yeah,
used to
he
looking
does.
With him, I mean, 30 years ago. Jeez.
So so we talked about how the budget went down. In all, 5 versions of the script were written before they settled on one, just because the budget kept getting cut and the length of the script kept getting cut down considerably. They started out with like 200 some pages, and the next draft was like 160 some pages, and then 104, and then they finally settled on then it was like 80, and it finally came down to like 66 pages or
It's
something
ridiculous.
Like that.
That's how George is. He writes so much.
Yeah.
And then that's what he does. He cuts.
But that Tasso was saying, who played
He was one of the
army guys,
army militant guys.
while interviewed, was saying that he believed that it was actually almost a better script. He thinks it turned out better because of all the cuts and all the condensing they had to do. So they had to become creative. They had to think of some things, and instead of just this big old budget effects type show thing, it became more of this love child where they actually had to put a lot of hard work into it.
More condensed and more more hard work, more time, and really it probably made it a better movie.
Yeah. So they filmed it in a mine shaft in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. Back in Pennsylvania again.
Yeah.
His hometown.
But apparently
home state.
the mine shaft had, it was about a solid 50 degrees the whole time in there. The temperature stayed at about 50 degrees, but there was very high humidity. And so they were having multiple problems with not only electronic equipment, but also Tom Savini with some of his effects and things like that. The humidity was just a pain in the ass, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
claustrophobia and stuff too. It was just tight space for people to work in.
And
they filmed for like 14, 15 hours a day.
Yeah, and it was out in the middle of nowhere, so a few times some of them opted just to spend the night there instead of going back and forth.
There wasn't like a Winnebago. It's funny. There wasn't a Winnebago nearby or a hotel, so they had to sleep there.
Yeah.
But back in the day, I guess you'd shack up in a Winnebago, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and one of the main girl in it, which was Lori Cardilli. Was she the only girl in the film? Besides zombie girls.
Yeah.
She was the only
she definitely was.
female that was like
yeah, and because they talked
zombified.
about how they all want to get some loving from her. So yeah, she was the only girl down there.
Yeah. But Lori Cardilli is Chili Billy Cardilli's daughter. So Chili Billy Cardilli was in Night of the Living Dead, the 1968 Night of the Living Dead. I think he had the Chiller Theater show, so he was a talk show guy. And it's funny the relationship there, and I think he might have passed away by the time this movie came out.
Didn't he play like a talk show guy on Night of the Living Dead?
I think he did.
Or was he not? Did he not? I don't remember.
I don't know. He might have. He was either a zombie or he played one of the newscaster talk show guys.
Maybe he didn't. It was.
But Chili Billy Cardilli is the dad of Lori Cardilli, which played Sarah in Day of the Dead, the main girl. So that's kind of cool because I think he passed away. So it was kind of cool how she did a George A. Romero film.
Yeah. Well, and she talked about how she was at the premiere of Night of the Living Dead, how they came in a limo and everything. And
that's right.
And she didn't even like horror or anything like that.
She hated it.
She looked a little rough too.
Yeah,
I think she had some Southwestern earrings on.
Her voice went from this high to kind of like this.
She's like a raspy.
It was a little lower.
She's like a raspy smoker.
Might have done some cigarettes, but she was very attractive.
She's like that aunt who smokes and breathes in your face when she kisses you. Kisses you hello.
Yeah.
Wears Southwestern earring style. And,
you got to get that. That bright green color, and the salmon color.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was she actually looked pretty good in the movie.
Yeah, no, she did. Yeah,
but yeah, she was in the interview. It definitely aged. You can tell the 30 years of age. Yeah. She actually probably looked the best out of all the guys, though.
Maybe.
Like age-wise in her face
probably.
and stuff.
The black guy
Savini looks good.
Too, yeah.
He looks good. And the black guy looked really good.
Yeah.
Terry Alexander, who played John, he looks really good too.
Oh, whoa! Oh God,
what's
my
that
ears!
Sound? Please shut it off!
My nose is gushing blood right now.
My nose hurts.
Okay, that was a failed attempt at something.
Was bad.
All right, that means it's time for the horror halftime, where you get a chance to become horror freak of the week.
Oh yeah.
You know what? I have a horror freak of the week, and I forgot to pull it up. I can do it right now while we're sitting here.
He's gonna pull it up. He's gonna pull it out while he pulls it up.
Yep. I got it, and I gotta give. Okay, it's coming up right.
I just saw a picture of Bub. Bub was the best zombie in the movie.
Picture of Bub. Jeez, where is it? Okay,
he kind of stole the movie.
All right, Justin Button. You are a horror freak of the week.
Justin Button.
It's because he's sent in 2 memes so far, and I got to give it to him. I got to tell you, Justin, they're pretty decent memes. They're not like the best in the world, but I'm giving you an A for effort, and you're going to be a horror freak of the week. So
he's giving you an E for effort.
E for effort?
Because effort starts with an E.
Okay.
A for effort.
That makes sense.
Sorry.
So yeah, Justin, horror freak of
Congrats,
the week.
Justin. Congrats, brother.
He doesn't know yet, but I'll shoot him a message, and he will know. So yeah, this week we're on Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead. Gruesome. Just shovels to the face and machetes to the arm. Maybe we should do Bub. Machete We could do a meme of Bub.
Yeah, I guess
Or
we
got some
just
thoughts?
keep doing the memes. Yeah, I was thinking Bub.
Something with the trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah, let's do it. We'll do a Bub. All right. We want to see your best Bub meme. Okay? So create your best Bub meme, post it on our Facebook page at facebook.com/cultclassichorror, and also post it on Instagram and tag us at cultclassichorror. Okay?
That'd be cool. You know what would be cool too? If someone like acted like Bub and like did film themselves with the tape recorder.
You would get extra points for that.
Yeah, if you act like Bub and filmed yourself,
Extra points.
you would get extra points and extra, specialty stuff from us, like merchandise and stuff. So
All right. Yeah. All right. Well, anyways, that concludes the horror halftime.
let's jump back into it.
Yeah. Yep. I guess we always say that. Let's jump back into it.
Let's jump back into it. So we said, that Lori Cardilli, her dad, of course. Some of the special effects we were talking about, the Tassos guy.
Tasso. Yeah.
His death was pretty gruesome.
Yeah.
When they ripped his head off his body
Yeah.
and stuff, and
So he was the one that,
had
if
a-
you guys remember, he is running and he jumps on like the pallet, and then they tear him apart on the pallet.
he doesn't really have too much dialogue in the film, but
Yeah.
he
But they
jumps on the
basically
pallet there.
tear his head off.
and his body away from his legs.
Are you sure? No, it's just his head. I thought.
I think it's
it's just the head, because then the legs is the main guy.
Oh
The-
yeah. That's
So Tasso's just his head. They pull his head off,
So much tearing
and the
bodies
jaw's
apart.
like still moving as he's screaming. And
Yeah.
yeah, they talked about how that was just a nightmare. Basically, he was laying down on the pallet. They cut a hole so you could like separate the pallet, and then he would bend over backwards down like underneath, and then they would shove the pallet back together. And so from about his waist down, even a little bit above his waist, it was actually him. But then they redid his like shoulders, his bust, and his head.
all silicone and stuff.
And they said he was literally bending over, backwards
Backwards.
down in that hole for 3 hours straight, while in the dark. I mean, it was pitch black, and because he's inside this pallet, 3 hours straight. And then when they finally did do it, and they're dumping blood down there, he said it was getting all in his face and his
Up his nose.
and he was drowning in blood basically.
So he went through hell for like 3 hours.
yeah.
So he went through it, but then Joe Pilato, the bad guy, he went through it too. He had like sit in like a hole, like a cutout.
Yeah, and the thing about I don't think he was drowning in blood because he was, his face was above. They basically created a hole for him that he was actually in, and so his head was real and everything, but then his torso was not real because that's what they pull
They
apart.
tore his torso and his legs apart.
Yeah, but a funny thing about the guts they used
Oh yeah.
is, so this filming, they did some in Pennsylvania, but then they also went down to Florida and did some filming because that's where Romero was living at the time. So before they went to do some shooting in Florida, they had created the guts for that scene for his death, and they put it in a refrigerator.
To keep it fresh.
Yeah. And while they were gone, the refrigerator, it broke or something.
Got unplugged or something.
Unplugged or broke. So they came back and they still had to use these guts. They didn't have anything else, and
they put all the time into making all these guts, so they had to use them.
And I guess they were I don't know what they're made out of. I think maybe even real meat, but they were just rancid and rotten.
Rotten, smelly. Yeah. But they had to shoot that day, and
Yep.
so So Joe Pilato had
they just went ahead and did it, and they were
guts
talking
on him.
about how I forgot who was playing the zombie or whatever, but they had to wear like nose plugs, and
It stunk so bad.
Yeah, Joe Pilato couldn't because his character, his face is right there, and so he said that was just hell.
And he said it was like 5 hour shoot.
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't
think
hear
it was
that.
a 5 hour shoot for his scene. So that was
Oh, it's just crazy.
that they put the bad guy through the worst, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I think they're all close together. Anyways, we talked about how they've all done these previous films together. They're all locked down in this mine, basically. So, but I think they talk about it with fondness, like they had a really good time together.
Yeah.
I think they had like a little bar down there, so they get the end of the shoot. They'd break out a couple.
Have a beer
drinks.
together and stuff. And they're even saying that a lot of the cast members in this have kept in contact with each other over these 30 years.
Yeah.
And they've done other films and stuff. But those other films, they don't keep in contact with those people. They really were a tight-knit family.
Yeah, they talked about playing pranks on each other and stuff. Tom Savini talked about how they had this office or store, whatever room they were doing effects in, and they got one of the producers real good. They got him a few times. He would walk in and they would have these explosives, like squibs, basically set up by the door. And he'd walk in and he would talk to them or whatever. And you go to leave, and right when you get to the door, they'd blow it up like right there, and he would scare the shit out of him.
That was Savini's like gag thing. He always was blowing shit up.
And so I guess the producer then got teamed up with the mechanical effects team to get him back, and took one of their cars that they would carpool in to go to lunch or something, and took one of their cars and put like a smoke effect under the dash. And so when they took off, smoke started pouring from under the dashboard, and they all immediately stopped the car and jumped out, and then all the guys were laughing outside the car. So
they had free time down there, and they were in the middle of nowhere in this mine shaft. So it's like, geez. And speaking of George, there was, just like his other films, there was so much freedom of him working with his cast, and everyone loves working with George A. And one in particular is the guy that plays Steele, big guy.
Yeah.
He collaborated with George about his death scene, and
that's right.
It was just gonna be like the other ones, the zombies were gonna come in and attack him, and the guy playing Steel, I forgot what his name was.
Yeah, but, I do too, actually.
But he said he didn't want to go out like that. He didn't think that his character would go out with the zombies,
Yeah, and he said George was real cool and was just like, oh, well, like, what are your thoughts? What are your ideas?
Because George wrote it, but he's like, okay, what do you think? So he ended up collaborating with him, and they agreed upon the eventual suicide, that he blows his brains out.
Yeah.
And knowing the guy playing Steele went into it and said, that he thought Steele would be like Catholic man, and it's against the rules in the Catholic religion to kill yourself like that, blah blah blah. But he said God would have understood, and I would have gone out this way and killed myself, and not
God would have understood the circumstances.
Yeah. Which that scene, God, they did not. The camera never panned off any of these scenes. No,
he just blew the back of his head. So you just saw
a gun go in and blow the back of his brains out, and no camera pan away from it. It was
they had a lot of flying cool effects. They even talked about who was it? I have it written down. When John Amplas dies in it.
Oh yeah,
and Joe Pilato shoots him in the head. I guess
that kind of freaked me out. I didn't know he was going to shoot him that quick. I was like, geez.
You don't see it in the movie, but I guess during one of the takes, brain matter or whatever flew into John's eye, and they had to they had to help him get it out and and retake it, obviously. So it was there's so much blood and gore. Another cool little tidbit is that in the beginning, when all the black hands come out of the wall and grab, what's her name?
Sarah. Well, Lori Tilly.
Romero made it a big deal saying, Romero told the people who were doing it, just saying, you reach out and grab her, just try not to grab her boobs. Don't grab her boobs. Well, if you watch, there's clearly one grabbing her boobs, and I guess it's her husband who was on set helping out.
He's the only one that's allowed to do that. Okay, yeah. She probably didn't know who it was. What the fuck?
And another thing, we were talking about Bub earlier. That whole scene where he's wearing the headphones and the music, I guess, that was basically made up almost on the spot. Like the actor playing Bub, and I forgot his name too.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of TV stuff and everything, but basically he had thought of it a little bit ahead of time and had started mentioning it to George, because the story is that the actor himself was running at the time. He kept in shape by running, and at that time, the Walkmans had just come out, and he was using a Walkman to run with. And so he got to thinking, I wonder, how Bub would react to music.
Incorporate it, yeah.
And so he thought maybe they could add this in, and basically they were ready to shoot the scene before they even had finished writing it, just because so much other shit was going on. And so right when they were shooting, he was like, why don't we try this? And then Romero's just totally like, yeah, let's do it. Let's try that.
He was game.
and the actor who played the Frankenstein, the professor.
Dr. Frankenstein, Jordan.
Yeah, they told him, yeah, let's do this. And he was like, okay. But I guess the type of personality he had, he was just a really uppity and fast moving,
ADD guy.
ADD kind of guy. And so when he said, point your finger and go down and press play, and he just did it way too fast. He was like, boom, boom, press play. And so it took him like a bunch of takes.
The guy playing Bub's like, he didn't want to tell a fellow actor what to do.
But he didn't want to be an actor directing his fellow actor. And so he said that to get him to slow down, he just acted the part. He said,
like a zombie.
I just acted like I didn't understand what the hell he was saying.
Finally, he slowed it down after like the 5th or 6th take.
Yeah, he finally slowed it down. And then after we got the take, he was like, now I know what you wanted me to do.
Yeah, the guy,
so
the guy that played Dr. Frankenstein, Jordan was his name in the film. I forgot what his real name was. He was actually he was really good too. He was kind of like crazy. He was going crazy with, taking the dead soldiers and using them to do experiments on and feeding them to Bub. And his coat, I love his lab coat was always bloody, and his hands were always bloody. And there was so much blood in this, which was so cool. And like we were saying, all the kills and special effects with the machete to the arm, and even when the doctor does the drill through the head really quick, I'm like, geez, where did that come from? So it was just, I mean, I think Tom Savini got an award for this movie.
He did,
right?
Some kind of like Saturn something award for special effects. For this,
which I think he's gotten a couple of those same awards just for his special effect work. I mean, obviously we saw him in all of George Romero's movies and Friday the 13th, but he's just one of a kind guy.
But this movie, I mean, it was a step forward and it had an impact, I think, especially once it came out on VHS, and that's when it did its best success. 5.8 million it did domestically. Its run, anyways, its opening run.
Yeah, for in
but then it did
theaters.
28.2 million internationally. Yeah, so way bigger internationally.
So all in all, like 34 million.
Yeah,
which I think compared to, we were saying how Friday the 13th did a lot more, but I think compared to some of the earlier Friday the 13th.
Yeah, if you count internet, but I guess we weren't counting international.
So maybe
theirs either.
So probably didn't. But yeah, I mean, not too bad. 34 million off of a $7 or $3.5 million budget.
But it's definitely there's a couple homages to this movie. I guess and I didn't realize this, in Resident Evil, the movie, there's a newspaper that says the same exact thing that this newspaper does in the beginning. The dead walk or whatever.
Yeah, yep. That's right.
And then Bub has a cameo in The Walking Dead season 4 episode. I forgot the number, but it's called Us. The episode's called Us. It's season 4. And Bub has a little cameo in it.
You'll see him as a walking zombie.
Yeah, and a lot. I mean, I was looking up the list. There's just tons of quotes that bands have used from this movie. I mean, one that I knew right off the bat was, it's pretty obscure. It's this hardcore band we listened to called Through the Eyes of the Dead, just because of our old band days.
Through the Eyes of the Dead.
Actually played with them and stuff, but they use a sample in there and plenty of other. I think the Gorillaz use.
This is not a field trip.
Things. This isn't a goddamn field trip. It's a fucking war.
It's a fucking war. Yeah, that's what Rhodes says.
So, I mean, that's mainly all the tidbit stuff I have, but there was some.
And this was Romero's favorite, one of his favorite of the trilogy zombie films too. So that's and you can see how much work they put into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are some of the good facts. There's some like tidbit things that I kind of wanted to throw out there.
Yeah.
The first zombie that you see in the entire movie, you could just tell the movie was going to be better than any of the zombies.
Oh yeah, the jaw and his tongue falling out.
The jaw was just broken down. His tongue was just hanging out. And I was like, oh my God, this is fucking like serious.
Yeah, I definitely think they wanted to make a statement with that opening shot there.
Yeah, it got me good. I was like, damn.
Well, it's by far just more than what he's done.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
One of the other things is the helicopter pilot, not the black guy, but the other guy. He says Jesus, Mary, and Joseph like 3 times, and that's his like cursing. So if you guys can pinpoint those, Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
Yeah, he says it at least
Jesus,
a few times.
in the interview with him, the guys, there were some kids that interviewed him that said you'd have to take a shot every time he said Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, and then you'd have to take a drink every time the F word was spilled.
Yeah, they dropped a lot of F-bombs.
Yeah, there was too.
I actually, the whole sort of beginning of the movie, I was sort of like, I don't know, frustrated or not enjoying it as much because everyone was just pissed at everyone, yelling at each other.
Like George A Romero movies start off.
Yeah, very, very hectic, very frantic. Everyone's yelling at each other. And you just wanted to kill Rhodes,
Yeah.
you know, when he's being all bossy. But then I sort of wanted to kill the Frankenstein had this like way he was talking too.
Yeah.
Like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
I was like, God, I just want to hit both these people.
And then the other military guy that had the out of control laugh.
Both of them.
God.
Both
Him
of
and
them.
Steel were like, jeez.
I was like, Jesus, someone just killed these
the
guys
laugh
like
was
we're in the
way
first
over the
5
top.
minutes here.
Way over the top laugh.
But it got bad. They calmed down a little bit after that. But I just almost couldn't handle it. I was like, jeez, fuck all these guys.
And then you see, you see all the zombies there when they land in the helicopter by the chain link fence, you know.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I guess zombies don't really climb things, but wouldn't you be a little freaked out to think that the zombies could like climb over the fence?
Yeah, or just push it over or something. Yeah.
But that obviously they were contained and that wasn't going to happen. So, but you always have to say like, hey, couldn't this happen?
Yeah.
But you don't do that, you know. I always do it, but you know, some people don't. But yeah, there was some. I wrote down here, it was just really gory. It was just it was brutal.
That
was
other
great.
part where Rhodes drives the golf cart off.
Oh,
the
yeah,
rest
yeah,
are just like, fuck, and they like kick the wall and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, he's just driving a golf cart. You could probably run
Like,
faster.
boss, no, what? And they got pissed off.
Yeah, if you guys watch the movie and you realize that, like, they're all running from the zombies when they come down.
Mm-hmm.
When whatever the soldier, the guy with no arm, gets his arm chopped off.
Yeah, because he takes the elevator up.
Yeah, it takes the elevator back down. All the zombies are there, and they're starting to run after the soldiers, and like they're running, and Rhodes gets ahead of them, and he jumps in the golf cart and like takes off.
Yeah,
but you know it's only going like 5 miles an hour or something like that, and then the guys come in the door right after he's taken off, and they're like, "Wait, boss!"
Yeah.
And then they just stop, and one of them's like, like shit, and he kicks the wall or something.
Yeah.
It's like, just jog next to him.
Just run.
Yeah,
you can sprint faster than he's going.
What do you
right now?
They're like, don't leave us, wait. It's like, oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, there was so many, and then the zombies came in. They didn't run away from. I mean, there was a lot of zombies on that elevator.
Yeah.
And then there was another part where John that played Terry Alexander that played John.
Yeah.
When the bat flies by his head.
Oh yeah.
He's just like, what the. It was just funny that there's a random bat that's in the movie that flies by his head.
That was pretty funny. It was like,
yeah. I actually laughed out loud with that part. I don't know why. It was just funny. Just the look on his face.
I LOL'd as well.
Yeah. And George Romero actually, he doesn't really have a Jamaican accent in real life. He actually asked him to do that Jamaican accent.
Yeah.
So that was something that
he was pretty spot on.
That he got directed.
Even a little hard to understand sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, he was.
So.
His little paradise with the trees and stuff.
Yeah.
They had he had the cool belt on. He had that machete like sheath, and then he had the holster with his gun, and it was pretty badass. Then he like went and took charge with Pilato's guns at the very end there. Yeah,
and there were many times, especially that time in the cave at the end, where they were wasting tons of bullets.
Yeah.
Instead of like really aiming and shouldering the gun and like taking the zombies out, they're constantly machine gunning from the hip. Yeah. All these zombies, you know.
There's like 4 of them there. And they're like wasting
just like
tons of bullets.
And they are holding the trigger. It goes on for like 15 seconds straight, and there's like just 3 zombies in front of them. Yeah. It's like, holy shit, conserve some ammo.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. That was.
Yeah, but
they were saying that, and this was just going back to the notes, that the Ebert didn't give this movie, Roger and Ebert, you know, Ebert didn't give this movie as many stars as as Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead. Yeah. So he liked this one the least out of all of them, which was kind of surprising to me. But anyways,
I think there was some controversy surrounding it as far as how brutal it was and how violent.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that in the very end, I guess what they were eating ribs, right? Like barbecued ribs.
When?
For when all the zombies are eating meat
No,
at the very end there?
They were interviewing someone, and he said at lunch break, it was funny to see all the extras playing zombies in the cafeteria eating ribs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was...
Makes you want to go vegetarian.
I forgot who said that. It was one of the cast members.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's what he was talking about.
But yeah, the very end, though, it is dark. Like, everyone dies. They're getting up to the helicopter, but it kind of plays that gloomy music, and everyone's just eating stuff. And I'm like, oh man!
And then they're suddenly on a beach.
Yeah.
And I almost thought that was a dream. I was like, when is she gonna wake up from this? Mm-hmm. You know. So it was a weird ending. And
I kind of wanted they're running to the helicopter, trying to beat the zombies there. I kind of wanted to see what happened. You know.
Yeah.
Like, were they gonna take off?
But she just like passes or wakes up. I don't know. Yeah, it was weird.
And they're on the beach.
That was probably definitely a budget restraint right there.
We can't film this last part.
They're like, we can't pay for the helicopter to leave the ground again. Mm-hmm. So sorry. We're just going to park it over here.
And you have John fishing.
But
she wakes up.
Yeah, that's sort of Romero's style. His movies so far start right away and then end right away. Mm-hmm. Creepshow is a little different just because it's a little more structured. But yeah, these Of the Living Dead movies... Or, Of the Dead movies are basically, they start right away and then they end pretty abruptly.
And this one was more of a happy ending compared to Night of the Living Dead.
Yeah.
Night of the Living Dead, I mean, he dies and it's just like weird music at the end. Dawn of the Dead, I guess they all fly on the helicopter, but like they just, they don't. This one, I was all right with it. But it was just abrupt, like, boom, wakes up, they're on the beach, but where else? That's where John said he wanted to be before when they're like, why are we here? We should be like going on a beach somewhere on an island, and that's what his wish came true. So
yeah, it was a good movie. I liked it. Probably, I mean, maybe the best so far.
I was very entertained.
It was visually the best so far. Night of the Living Dead's a classic, but this was a good one.
Effects wise and the budget, you could tell the difference, and it really was entertaining. So, you horror fans who have not seen Day of the Dead, I do recommend it.
Yeah. So, that wraps up Day of the Dead, episode 28. Awesome. I got to look at the schedule and see what we're even going to do next week. Because we might finish out with still a few more George Romero, but we might, we'll be moving on pretty soon here to the next subject.
Yes.
Which we'll keep it we won't mention it yet.
Yeah. We'll keep you guys waiting.
We're actually sort of deciding between two things. We had it all scheduled out, but now we're rethinking a couple things. So we'll keep you updated.
Yeah, we'll let you guys sit on the edge of your
seat.
But
yeah, for those of you that stuck around this long, I should mention this earlier. We're actually, I didn't even really mention this to you, Scotty. I'm looking for designers and artists. If you guys, our horror store is now open. Some about our link on the website, though, is still going to Evil Dead Fan Club, which is me and Scotty's other store, personal store of ours, not really attached to Cult Classic Horror. But we have created this horror store that should be, hopefully by the time you listen to this, it's linked up. But if it's not, you can just go to store.cultclassichorror.com. We've got some stuff for sale there already, and we're going to be adding stuff there all the time till it's really built out.
Yeah.
But because of that, also, we're looking for some custom horror designs. Really what we'd love to have is custom horror designs that also say Cult Classic Horror on them. Mm-hmm. So it could be anything from like a zombie that looks really badass that you drew up and colorful, and it says Cult Classic Horror in blood above it or something. We just want to get a lot of signature Cult Classic Horror shirts.
Unique and original, yeah.
So if you're a good design artist or an artist and you're into that stuff, throw us a line on the... Actually... You can message the Facebook page. We check that, usually once a day.
Yeah, Cult Classic Horror.
Shoot us a message on Facebook page. You could email me, Danny, at cultclassichorror.com, too.
Yeah. Or Scotty at cultclassichorror.com.
But yeah, we're just looking for a good example. Check out, I don't know these guys at all, but check out terrorthreads.com. Free plug for them there. Yeah. But they got some cool designs that are custom, and they say Terror Threads, and we're looking to do something similar for Cult Classic Horror.
In that nature.
Yeah. So anyways, just wanted to put that out there. So thanks for joining us, you guys. Make sure to check us out, facebook.com/Cult Classic Horror, Instagram @Cult Classic Horror, Twitter, Cult Horror Show. And definitely download us on iTunes and give us a 5-star rating. And really leave an awesome review. We would love you forever.
Yeah, written reviews are the best, guys.
Yeah,
We love those.
5-star rating and a nice review. So, yeah, thanks for joining us. And we'll catch you next week.
Yeah, see you next week, guys. Thanks.
Don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Oh, yes. There will be blood.